Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of CCC Talks with Mark O'Loughlin and the Cloud Credential Council. Now, today we are joined by Arnaud van Rietschoten, who is Head of Information Technology Operations at SEBA Bank AG and former VP IT Service Management and Digital Workplace at Emirates. Now, you're also, this is very interesting, founder and co-owner of Trick Tribe, which has been described as the world's largest marketplace of magic. So something for listeners to look at later on. I found that very interesting. But anyway, Arnaud, thank you for joining us on CCC Talks today. But to get started, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Well, thanks for inviting me, Mark. Pleasure to be on the broadcast. So yeah, at the moment, to be honest, I'm as we recorded, I'm still in between jobs. I thought that the future in aviation post-COVID was going to be a bit grim, and I thought, I need to reorient myself, and I had a long list of other things I wanted to do, like starting Trick Tribe. I've been writing a book. I always wanted to write a book, and a lot of other things that were on my to-do list, and that got in between me and the work that I was doing. So I thought, I'm going to take a break. I moved from Dubai to Spain. And so I went through most of the things on my list, and then SEBA Bank came on my way. And I think this SEBA is it's a dream coming true for me. It's a startup. It's a 2-year-old bank in Zug in Switzerland. It's what we call the Crypto Valley. And it's a fully licensed bank, and it's all based on cryptocurrencies. So that's exactly what I was looking for when I said, I'm going to stop in aviation. I need to, and it's funny, I recently did a post on it. I formulated for myself, what do I want? And to be honest, if you're going to read my book, it's going to be published in a month or so. I write in the book that the guy, it's half autobiographic, is looking for a job. And he is discussing with a friend the type of job he's looking for. He said, I would love to work in a startup. I would love to work in fintech, and he then finds a job not in fintech, and the company he works with blockchain. So it's very amazing that how you can drive and shape your own future by giving it the right thoughts, because that's exactly what I'm going to do now. I'm going to work for a startup, fully based on blockchain. And it's a small organization, and that was exactly what I was looking for.
That's fantastic. I said it's great to take the time out to do all those things and then to get back in. We'll probably look at a bit of blockchain and some of the crypto a little bit later on. It's a fascinating area, I think, and it's a massive growth industry, especially for banks and fintech, but also any other organization that can find a use for blockchain and that kind of stuff. We're drawn to get you onto the podcast to talk, initially on the topic of organizational design in this time of digital transformation. I believe you've covered some of this in your previous work and what you talk about. Tell us a little bit about that from your experience, your organizational design in this world of digital transformation that everybody seems to find themselves in today.
Yeah, if you're not into the party, you're probably missing something. It probably depends a little bit on what your current mode of operations, what your current organizational design is, because but traditionally IT organizations were very much organized in silos. There was a software engineering division, there was an infrastructure division, there was an architecture team. Typically, there was a pyramid type of hierarchical designs with middle managers in there and managers. And so if you're embarking on a digital transformation, and that in itself is already a big word, but if you are embarking on that road, then you think you can do that with all the same institutes in place, the same of software engineering team, the same infrastructure team, and there is going to be work for all these, I don't know, depending on the size of your organization, tens or hundreds of middle managers. I think you find yourself in a lot of trouble moving ahead with your digital transformation. So you really need to be aware that, like they often say in Holland, I'm not sure if you have the same expression in England, but you're not baking any omelets without breaking eggs. Yeah, so you need to break the organization, in order to cook your omelet here. So you really need to change the seats around the table, and make sure that it doesn't mean that everyone needs to get fired. It just needs to make sure that, some of your middle managers that maybe had a bit more of had a suitable personality can become scrum masters, can become agile coaches, etc. And that transformation, and that really is transformation. It starts by giving everyone a new purpose in the organization.
Yes.
And once you've done that, you will see that the rest of it will flow. And really, that to me is phase one of the organization, is reshaping that organization. Because if you do that only at the end, you'll find that your implementation gets severely delayed, because everyone has an opinion and everyone wants to hang on to the path. So that to me is absolutely important. But it really, the extent of the transformation depends on how your current setup is. So there's not a single answer probably, but you will need to move to an organization that is flatter. You need to move to an organization that is more holistic, with more end-to-end ownership. And ideally, I'm a strong believer that you need to move to an organization that is based and structured around value streams in an organization. So whether that is, if you're a bank, it's mortgage. If you're in insurance, it could be, strangely enough, I was talking to an insurance company. They had a team that was dealing with death. So the death is a value stream, because it's a main revenue stream for an insurance company. So you have people working in death the whole day. But if you're in an airline, it can be check-in, and so you really need to have that clearly set up. And once think if you start to change the organization in that model, then the rest will flow. And really make sure you do that first, because if it's only an afterthought and you do it at the end, I think you'll find your implementation is going to become horrendously difficult.
It can be very hard. And it's interesting because you mentioned there, so I asked about organizational design and digital transformation, and what you focused on there, I think quite rightly, is the people change and the structure within the organization. It's not a conversation about technology. Technology enables us to do the things we want to do, but that's not what digital transformation, I think, really is. It does have a part to play, but I think the key thing is that people are key to that. As you said, we have a lot of people in your organization, they probably don't fit digital transformation today, but that doesn't mean they can't fit. There's retraining, re-engineering, there's rethinking, there's repurposing, because they'll have a lot of built-in knowledge about the organization and the people and the culture, and actually how to get things done. I think that can be lost in digital transformation when they look at a cohort of people and say, we no longer need this cohort of people because we're doing something different. But can they lose a lot of knowledge by that, by not, retraining, reskilling people? Is that a missed opportunity for some organizations?
Well, clearly you need new skills. And the bad thing is you're not the only organization that needs these skills. You're all fishing in the same pool. So if you think you can you can survive and get by terminating all of your project managers and hiring all new agile coaches and scrum masters, etc., get rid of all your system engineer and hire site reliability engineers and DevOps engineers, it's going to be a very costly exercise, and certainly it's not going to move you any faster. So I think you get a lot of merit out of the organization if this is indeed, the word says it already. It's transformation. It's not elimination and re-implementation. So the transformation chapter also applies to the people part. People will have to change. People their roles will change, their knowledge will have to change, their day-to-day job will change. But that doesn't mean that the individuals will have to change. So I think as long as people understand that is the whole merit of a transformation, and then there is a consultancy period to go through to understand who fits into what Shu the best. And what kind of skills, you know, are required for what type of role. But if you did that well and you give them the right level of support, I'm pretty sure you're gonna do this in a more sustainable manner. Yeah, because you, as a result, you get a lot of loyalty from your staff. Than if you suddenly get rid of all your system engineers, say, I certainly now need DevOps. And mind you, everyone who today has a DevOps engineer title on LinkedIn, probably a year ago, 2 years ago, was a system engineer. Yeah, you know, so you know, so you're chasing a holy grail if you're trying to find all of these things on the street. So yeah, you will have to. It's going to be hard. Yeah. Digital transformation is not simple. It is, but it's about communication. It's about being honest and open, and it's about support, giving the right level of support to people, but be persistent on the end goal of what you want to do and how you're going to do it. I'd love to talk to you about that later as well.
I think that's great. I love what you just said there. Digital transformation. It's not elimination. It's transformation. I just love that phrase there that you said. I think it's very important for people to focus on. Change is hard. You know, it's hard for people to change, but I think we've got to all realize we are in change. And then those that realize that and are supported to change, as you said, will have that better experience, and the organization will be better for it. There will be people that don't want to change, and it's a case of see what happens. Now, is one of the biggest challenges in digital today, though, is it a lack of understanding of what digital transformation actually means in context? Like I always say, if you put 10 people in a room and ask them what digital transformation is or cloud or whatever, you'll get back 10 answers. If you put 100 people in the room, you'll get back 100 different answers. Are we struggling with understanding what this actually means in context in a collective within an organization?
Yeah, you know, I think what you often hear is organizations are purpose driven. Yeah, you know, so it all starts by understanding what's the purpose of your organization. Yeah, what are we here for? What do we like to achieve? Yeah, and how can technology achieve and drive that purpose? I think that is ultimately, and to me, when we talk about digital transformation, it's about you know, how can technology make an organization faster in the go-to-market model, more efficient, more innovative in its offering, and offer new type of services that they previously did not have. Yeah, and of course, yeah, I think maybe it's a good thing to do in first phase as well of an organization, to make that well, articulate that well of what are the expectations out of the transformation journey. And yeah, I find the word digital transformation a little bit overhyped, to be honest. To me, it's about you know, fine-tuning. Or now fine-tuning is a bit of a, you know, a misnomer, but it's about adjusting and changing the organization in line with the requirements of the purpose of the organization.
Yeah, that's fair enough. It is about adjusting the organization and use that to the requirements. Sometimes that requirement might be a completely new, different business model. Otherwise, it can be something separate, you know, to that. But it is supported by digital. You've talked about this. We had a look at this, and you've talked about. I love the phrase how IT lost its glamour, and how DevOps comes to the rescue. It's a fantastic phrase. Some would agree, some probably would disagree. But what I wanted to ask you is, how has IT lost its glamour? What went wrong to start with? Where did IT go wrong?
Well, I don't, you know, it's not all gloom and doom here, you know, it's absolutely not. Yeah, you know, but I wrote there was a LinkedIn article that I wrote around that on that topic, and I pictured Christopher Reeve as Superman, you know, saving your enterprise from its misery. But yeah, no, and to be honest, I only started to get across DevOps in, let me see, that must have been 2015, 2016, a bit late maybe, because I mean, you know, it's only in the Middle East, it was not as visible as in Western Europe and in Holland, for instance, where a lot of these things had its roots. So at a certain moment, I started to really explore DevOps and what was happening in DevOps land, and to me, it was an eye opener. It really was an eye opener because I was, I was raised in the silo world. I was Mr. Ops. Yeah, I was IT service management. I was IT ops. If you look to all my titles, they are ops. I'm an ops guy. Yeah, and certainly I read that book and my eyes opened and say, gosh, yeah, this is probably a way much better way of working together than what I've been doing over the last 30, maybe 20 years, 30 years it was at that time. Yeah, so and then I started to preach that. Yeah, inside Emirates at that moment, I said, well, guys, there's a party going on, and we're missing out on this party. Yeah, we really need to. We need to explore this because and I started to really advocate it, and in that context, I wrote that article because what IT, of course, was in a lot of organizations a cost center. IT was sluggish. Yeah. IT took a long time to deliver, on all of on the business requirements. Business typically knew better what it needed than IT himself. Yeah, so IT became an order taker, and IT became a slave to the business, and I've seen it happening a number of times, and absolutely. That is something that DevOps tries to counter, 180 degrees. You certainly turn, and that's why it's a transformation. You certainly turn the seats around the table. Yes. If you do this well, at the end of this journey, your technology department is a thought leader in the organization. And rather than being a lagger in the organization, technology should be the puller of the organization. You need to pull the organization. Say, hey, this is what we can do with technology, and so and rather than being an order taker, you should be a solution pusher. Yeah, so I think the role of IT, if you do that right, is completely 180 degrees from what it was in the past, and so, but it requires a generation of people to change minds, because you had CIOs that grew up in that old era. You had divisional managers that were very powerful. They had an SVP name with divisions of a few hundred people with big salary checks, and so it changing all of that. Reading the book is easy, but then preaching it and doing it and making it happen requires a lot of vision, needs a lot of directions from the top, and I had a lot of input and a lot of pleasure to meet quite a number of the ING leadership in the past years. I got a lot of inspiration from them, and the ING story, of course, has been told numerous times, but I think that has been feeding me, and as a result has been feeding Emirates, where I did brought in a lot of that thinking on what a transformation should look like. So the whole idea of engineering craftsmanship, the whole idea of knowledge, the importance of knowledge, etc. So all of these things were things that I got inspired by talking to different people within ING Bank.
Yeah, fantastic. That's a great overview. I always think, though, that sometimes, so IT, as you said quite rightly, became the order taker and kind of got a bit bureaucratic internally, and it was the business coming with solutions more than IT. And then there was this big change. I think cloud has certainly changed the way the business can go out and just get IT in seconds. You need an ID, password, credit card, and you have a CRM system. You have a sales system. You have a HR system. So I think that changed. I think the role of IT does need to evolve into that kind of broker type role where it says to the business, here are the things we can do. Are we in danger with DevOps? So DevOps looked at a particular area to start with, and now it's sometimes seen as a cure-all. So DevOps is fantastic for software design, development, product design. But there's a lot more within the IT function than just that. There's all the infrastructure, there's all the break-fix stuff, there's all the end-user supports. Can DevOps cover all of that, or is there now a gap between what you said, traditional operations, DevOps? Is there a gap in the middle? that we somehow need to join up?
Yeah, well, I think, that one of my other LinkedIn articles, I made a comparison about, DevOps, because I think in the marriage between Dev and Ops, I think, Dev is still the loudmouth. Yeah, and,
Right.
Ops is still having a minor role to play. And I compared, I don't know if you're as old as me, I compared Dev and Ops to, there was a TV series called All in the Family with Archie Bunker and Edith. And Archie was the loudmouth. And, so I compared Dev with Archie. And then Ops, timid Ops was Edith with a tiny voice, etc. But I think to me there is a role for Ops to stand up, first of all. Yeah, because you say it yourself. Yeah, but the moment when you started to explain DevOps, you gave all kind of examples or reference to development activities. But to me, the biggest gain to be made in the coming years is on the Ops side. Yeah.
Yes.
The tooling side, for instance, has matured quite a bit with CI/CD. The amount of tools that allow you to do your continuous deployment, to do your testing, your security testing, have matured enormously. Yeah. But if you look what's happening on the Ops side, yeah, so there is little done yet to go to I think the whole idea of a no-ops environment where is to me is the holy grail of operations. Yeah, so the idea that I always say, all the companies that run IT infrastructure, I would guess 90% of what they do is all the same. Yeah, we all run servers, you all run routers, you all run networks, you all run end users, you all run end user devices. If it's not 95% is all the same. Where it differs is the application layer. Yeah, you suddenly run a reservation system on top of it. You run maybe an oil exploration system on top of it. That makes it suddenly that IT infrastructure a different use case. But all the issues that happen in all of these servers and all of these network layers, they're all the same with everybody. Yeah, they're all repetitive. They're all the same. There are links going down. There is passwords to be reset. There are user IDs to be locked and unlocked. There are file-based systems that go full. There are network links that get oversaturated. There are hardware things that go wrong. It's everywhere the same. And all of these organizations are manually doing all of these things. Yeah, so, and if you make the analogy with the plane, where the pilot and how things in a plane are automated. If things go wrong, yeah, there is an autopilot and things are happening. Yeah, and pilots say, oh, there is bad weather here. I better make sure I do a bit of a diversion. There is not someone that has to look and say, oh, we have bad weather coming up. I need to do a diversion. This is all pre-programmed because all the planes are going to face bad weather and all the planes need to do diversions. So I'm waiting for a vendor that is going to do all of these things and start to, the whole idea of AIOps, I think to me is at the moment, it's still a bit, visionary, but I would love to see the idea that ops can become very predictive, the action that uptake become very, prescripted in the system. And ultimately, ops in itself gets its own place when it comes in terms of automation in sync with the CI/CD line. And then if you then have these two autonomous engines, at one side you have the ops engine and the other side the delivery engine. Yeah, then I think you have a very equal world of two likes. And to me, that's the biggest gain to be made. Yeah, ops to stand up, grow, and automate and get predictive and get reactive in an automatic manner.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting view, which I think is very relevant as well. I think the ops side has stagnated. Maybe it's not been invested in over the years. Maybe it's been seen as a cost, and a way to drive down cost was to, go deep into IT and kind of outsource. I think we're at the stage now where actually ops needs investment, because to do DevOps, you need investment. You have to invest in people and bringing in something new. And also, I mean, a question I have for you, can you do DevOps without tools? I would think not, because then there's an investment there. that's all investment in automating on one side, and on the other side, we continually get pushed to reduce the cost of IT. So I think we've probably bottomed out on the how much cost can we take out of IT anymore. I think we've saturated that across the world. I think we now need to look at our organizations and stakeholders need, how do I invest to put automation into the operations side? Would that be a good way to think about it? How do they now invest to automate, whether we call it AI ops or automation ops or whatever we call it, that we look to automate a lot of that 90% that we can or something. Is that where we are today?
No, yeah, that would be my dream. Yeah, that indeed that part gets more or less automated, and you have the autopilot running, and of course you will always need people. Yeah, the day's going to be still very far away until we have a plane taking off without pilot. But so there will always be a person, but there won't be an operation center with tens of people. I'd rather have an operation center with a few experts keeping an eye on it. Stepping in, fine-tuning things, reacting to advice messages coming out of the expert systems, etc., etc. And I think that is the big wait for it. And I think we're probably 5 years away from something like that popping up. If you see what some of the vendors are doing, you see that the whole world of application monitoring and infrastructure monitoring, log management start to all come together. And I think it's a matter of time before one of these companies will start to figure out how all the rules can be implemented and how that can be done in a very effective manner. And then I still think you can take cost out. I'm absolutely convinced you can take cost out.
Sure. I think we'll always be pushed on reducing costs. I do think there's an investment required, though, to take the next layer of costs out, but it gets you more than just cost reduction. It gets you the agility and that DevOps mindset, I'm reminded about, as you said, the plane analogy. Actually, when the pilots are flying, the autopilot generally does be on as well, doing a lot of the activities as well. So there's always a level of automation on even when they're flying the plane, which is good to know, and it works. And when it works extremely well. Can you do DevOps in an organization without investing in tools? You mentioned the CI/CD tool sets, all this automation going from dev, test to change, code repositories, all of this stuff. Can you do that without tool sets, or is DevOps heavily dependent on tools because of the automation layer?
Yeah, of course, I think you need tools, but I think you should not make the mistake that DevOps is tools. Yeah, because a lot of people just say, I just wrote a tender for DevOps. I heard what someone said that, I wrote a tender for DevOps. We're gonna get a new tool set, and then we have DevOps. Yeah, so it's not. But yes, the word itself, automation, says it. You need automation engines. You need capability and intelligence. You need to have rule-based engines. You need orchestration engines, and all of these things need to be there. And so yes, if you don't have it, it's going to be a cost. Although also in the open source space, you see more and more areas, open source solutions popping up that are going to be more and more advanced. So, but yeah, there is, without tools, you're not going to need it. You're not going to get there. And there's a wide choice of tools available, and it's not a single solution for to get it done.
That's fantastic. So without tools, you're not going to get there, but don't just be focused on tools, because you're not going to get there either. It's a combination of both. And have a look at the tool sets. There's a huge amount and varied amount of different types of tools. So we go back to the transformation piece and DevOps being a form of transformation. How are the managers and leadership going to drive staff motivation and a culture of change and get people to change? Surely that's difficult.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think there is it starts with a lot of communication. Yeah, what I've done a lot is bringing stories into the organization. It's a lot of storytelling happening. Yeah, so you need to. It always helps if you can have success stories by others shared inside your organization. So if you have the capability, there are plenty of organizations out there already that have gone through this. Yeah, so you're not the first one to doing it. So get in touch with some of these organizations, and you'll find that this is a very friendly world. People are very happy to talk about their own successes. Yeah, so it's not going to take you too much effort to find someone who's going to share inside your organization what they've done it, how they've done it, what worked, what did not work, and what are the successes they're at the moment seeing. Yeah, so that's first of all, because you need to create that common understanding. You as an individual leader can say the story, share a story inside an organization, but have someone else doing it is 10 times as powerful. So that's first thing to do. You want to make sure that everyone gets the same picture. Then you need to make sure that what I told you in the beginning is that you need to be pretty clear, who's going to get what role inside an organization. Because if that is not clear, there is nothing as demotivating as people not knowing what their future role in an organization is. And you cannot get away by saying, don't worry about it, we'll sort it out in the future. Yeah, that is the worst thing to say, because exactly that's what they're going to do. They're going to worry about it. They are going to worry about the future. So early in the organization, you need to make sure that you agree. This is especially in the management layer. I think that because if you're a software engineer, okay, you may have been a software engineer in department A, and tomorrow you may be a software engineer in a value stream. That per se does not maybe change your role that much, although it may require a change of technical know-how. But on the management layer, you need to be absolutely clear, what's going to be the role for everyone. So that's the first. Then the leaders that are there, and the one that are really in charge of a transformation. First of all, I think you need to make sure that you have people alongside you who've done this before. It could be either new hires, you're in the luxury position that you hire someone new who's got a very significant history in a transformation. That's great. You can use that person. If not, I'm sure there are still lots of external consultants that will be happy to help you in your in your transformation. But then again, make sure don't go overboard with your externals, because you can burn a lot of money with that as well. But but I really want to make sure you need to make sure that you have people in charge who can talk with conviction, who can talk from experience, and also who can be very decisive in leading the way. Because in a transformation, I think it's very important that at the top there is a very clear mandate and a very clear vision of what we're going to do. We're going to do this first, then we're going to do that, and then we're going to do that. We're now in phase A, and with phase A we're going to do A, B, C, and D. We may not yet know exactly what we're going to do in phase B. Phase 2 we know, but that's what we're going through, and this is what we're aiming for at the end of the role. So I think an organization that's going through change needs a lot of guidance and needs to be very prescriptive. And I'm a strong believer of what they call the ShuHaRi way of working. ShuHaRi, I don't know if you know, the ShuHaRi is the Japanese method of transferring knowledge between a master and a student, like in the Karate Kid. And ShuHaRi is being often used as the best way of driving a digital transformation. Shu stands for you learn the rules. Ha stands for you apply the rules, and Ri stands for you break the rules. Okay, so you learn the rules, you apply the rules, and you break the rules. And you need to go through all these three phases. Imagine it. Think about that. You play the piano, and I ask you now to play the violin. You may be a master in playing the piano, but it doesn't mean that you're suddenly a master in playing the violin. You still need to learn. You need to go to the Shu phase of how do I, with my fingers, and I had a thing like this. I suddenly need to hold something like that. So, and especially in an experienced organization where people think they know everything, you will see that the shoe phase gets ignored. Because if you start to take shortcuts on your shoe phase, you'll find that the application of rules is going to be very much depending on the individual. And if
Yes.
not everyone has gone through what is the meaning of this left fingers on this, on my violin,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
you get different tones. So and it maybe it's a bit counterintuitive to a DevOps and transformation, because often it's being seen as a bit of free for all and everyone happy cheer hallelujah and we all sing and dance in the corridor. But it's not, the shoe phase is very prescriptive, but you need to take your organization through a shoe phase. If you do a daily stand-up, you do a daily stand-up. Yeah. If you do a demo, you do a demo. If if we're going to use Jira to do track, we're going to use Jira, and this is how we're going to do it, and this is how we're going to do that, and this is how this is how we're going to report on our impediments, and this is how.
Yes.
So all of these things need to be very well prescribed, and so and I often see that is probably one of the biggest mistakes, that people are skipping that prescriptive phase, and certainly then what you see is the organization ends up in numerous workshops. It's let's go and whiteboards. Oh, and your consultants love that, because a whiteboard is another 5 days they can they can write for you, and they can, so your consultant already in his head thinks, oh, 5 times $2,000 a day, yeah, good, if that's a cheap consultant. But don't whiteboard and don't do these because a lot of the things that you need in your transformation are already available. Safe, if you apply Safe, it is there. Yeah,
Yes.
get a Safe expert in and get everyone through a safe. ITIL is there. There is still a role for ITIL. CI/CD tools are there. And so don't start from scratch. And let's say, how are we going to do things? Or we're going to not do Safe the way Safe says we do Safe because we are different. No, we're not different. Yeah,
Yes.
An airline organization is not going to fly one plane less, whether they step away from Safe or not. Yeah, so and that's your fastest way to a digital transformation. I really encourage you to stick to take a method, stick to that method, and make sure you give your organization 2 to 3 months of time to get to that shoe phase. And then you will see that once they have the rules, they can apply the rules, and hopefully then very soon, the smarter guys in your organization and girls in your organization will start to bend the rules.
Fantastic. I think there's a huge amount of learning in there, Arnaud. I'm going to have to go back and listen to all that again. Two quick things. You mentioned there towards the end, what you need is you generally have in your organization already. I think we forget that. As you said, we have people, we have methods, we have whether title, whatever this is. We just need to adapt what we have. That means a bit of change, not fundamental, but we need to change a bit of mindset, bit of thinking, bit of how we do things. But we have most of it internally, not to whiteboard ourselves to death, which I think is really good. How many whiteboard sessions? What are you going to get out of it? Probably not a lot. Again, stop and think. Probably go into the room and think, what do we have? What do we need to change? How do we change it? Small incremental changes will make a bigger change overall. And then ShuHaRi, I think we're going to blog about this a little bit more. I think it's really good. Rules, understand the rules to start with. Rules, definitions, our play, what are we going to do? Apply them, absolutely. They're only theoretical until we apply them. And I love the last bit, bend or break them a little bit, because I think that's really good. And we could probably apply the break bit to the bureaucracy that we've built up in organizations to help move into this more DevOps transformative thing. Because sometimes I think too many organizations are stuck in that bureaucracy. Bureaucracy by definition is not a bad thing if it achieves the result that it wants to do, but it is seen as being very slow now compared to the new ways and new methods. So I certainly like break there as well. So ShuHaRi is really good mindset for people to think about. And one other thing you mentioned was there are so many organizations that have done DevOps now, that are doing it, that have had failures, that have had success. and your quote was just go ask them, go talk to them, go find somebody in that, use a LinkedIn or whatever that is, make a connection and ask a question, and you probably get some help. That's really good. That's really good. Like looking at, there's a lot of organizations in digital transformation projects. In closing and finishing, would there be 3 key benefits you'd recommend on top of everything you've just mentioned? Is there anything else that you'd add into the mix? Any other recommendations that you'd give for organizations to think about on their digital transformation, their wider projects?
Well, there's maybe one thing I want to highlight, and we didn't discuss that much on it, but to me, it's the importance of knowledge. Yeah.
Oh,
so,
yes.
So another LinkedIn article had the title "Knowledge is the New Currency" in your organization.
Tell us what you mean by that.
Yeah. Now, to me, first of all, knowledge. A technology organization is, to me, all depending on the quality of the people. Yeah. The higher skilled the people you are, the higher quality of technology you will use as an organization. Yeah. And whether you like it or not, it's not going to be depending on the quality of your project managers. It's not. Of course, they're important. Don't let all the project managers now suddenly come after me and shoot at me. It's not going to be depending on the quality of your service managers. And I'm talking to my own, church here, but it's, to me, the quality of your engineers, the quality of your software engineer, the quality of your infrastructure engineers, the quality of the people that use your tooling, the quality of the people that, your architects, your enterprise architects. These, to me, these should be your rock stars in an organization. And that's often also when it comes to transformation, it's changing the way an organization starts to reward these people, because these are, to me, and you should, as an organization, have an aspiration that in each of these domains you have a few people that are absolutely thought leaders. They write books, they get invited into A-level conventions, etc. They are the people that should be driving the organization, and they shape the face of your technology organization outside of your company. So having the right knowledge, and that doesn't happen by itself. So you need to, I've been starting up at Emirates an IT academy. So the IT academy was there to, foster knowledge, to bring in knowledge to your organization. And knowledge, again, has 3 layers. It's about knowledge, it's getting knowledge, applying knowledge, and sharing knowledge. And as long as you can encourage these 3 things in people, and if you do that well, then it becomes a self-serving loop, because then the people that share knowledge can help the people that need knowledge. So you can, and if you can drive and encourage that in an organization, I think then, we'll come back on what we started, DevOps, IT can become back the hero inside the organization. And to me, it becomes a hero if you really can be proud on your technology, on the knowledge that the patents that you have. Maybe you made contribution to open source. Maybe, some of your people wrote books, so it's people that speak on conventions, etc. That to me, that's really the start of everything. Because once you have these experts in your organization and they get recognized by the rest of your tech team, you will see they get continuously consulted, and they will lift up the rest of your organization. So try to infuse your organization with knowledge, and it doesn't happen by overnight. It doesn't mean that you need a huge knowledge department, but it can be 1 or 2 people that just as a primary task are to have there to manage the knowledge process in your organization. Because if your knowledge is there, ultimately that will drive the output and the quality of your technology team.
Yeah, and I think with knowledge, it changes now with all this cloud and digital, because we're now connecting into services that already exist and are managed in the cloud by cloud providers a lot of the time. A key component for any organization is how you connect to multiple cloud services and bring it all back internally. And I think that's where one of the key areas of knowledge can be gained or lost. That interoperability now, that connecting to different clouds, is something you should architect with internal people, and you should maintain the knowledge internally, not outsource that. But these people are not cheap. They can be a bit more expensive and all this. So there's that continual thing with trying to drive down cost in IT, but having to spend in IT to keep knowledge and keep the right. I think it's the right people with the right knowledge today, as opposed to general view, at least. And if you can protect the budget to protect that area, you probably protect the business a lot more than they think. But again, it's one of these, it's hard to put a value on knowledge until something goes wrong, I think. And when the plumbing in a hybrid multi-cloud environment goes wrong, that can be very tricky because your cloud providers won't really answer the call. They'll go, our stuff works. So the question comes back internally, how does all this work? So I think, would that be a key driver in the conversation about knowledge, is you've got to protect all the plumbing that connects all this digital services to keep you going. Would that be a fair statement?
Yeah, to be honest, there is not a huge source of knowledge, and that's with your suppliers. Yeah, and you don't underestimate how much knowledge you can get from your suppliers. Yeah, you know, so and tap into that, and you know, and you really make sure you maximize. Of course, there is there's something they expect out of it in return, but you know, you can help them to educate you. Yeah, you know, so you want to get to, you know, the interconnectivity between clouds. I'm pretty sure if you knock onto your cloud suppliers that they have a view on that, and if you do that with 2-3 of them, before you know, you have developed, you've got a pretty good understanding how to do it. Yeah, you know, so there's a lot of free knowledge out there. It's again tapping on people's shoulder, and all of the knowledge is there. It's just a matter of trying to find it and make it yours.
Fantastic, fantastic. Arnaud, we'll leave it there. Listen, we want to thank you for sharing your experiences and wisdom today. There's a huge amount in there for listeners to take away. We're going to go back, we're going to listen through and pull out some of those bite-sized things that you've mentioned there. I think some really good pointers to get people started or to get them refocused on their digital transformation, DevOps, whatever journey of change they're going on at the moment. So in final, Arnaud van Rietschoten, thank you for joining us today on CCC Talks.
Thanks, Mark, for having me, and wishing you and your listeners a very nice day. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.